What's going on? Welcome to WPSN99.com. I am your host here on Dharma Time with the Dope Doctor. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing...
You sounded really...
I am not sick. Don't
fake
say
and
it.
phony
no,
and sick right
no,
there.
I refuse to say the words I am sick. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, you can keep
I'm
wishing
feeling
all you
fantastic.
want.
I did not catch the flu or the upper respiratory infection that both my children had over the weekend. It was awesome. My little petri dishes.
You've just identified exactly what's going on with you.
Not going to happen. No, I refuse. Anyways, welcome to Dharma Time. This is our first one we've had in quite some time. And what a way to kick it off. We got special guest here, Patrick Dunn. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Ooh, good. I'm really glad to be here, Trinity.
Yes. I'm
Now he's like whispering.
Right? He's like, how you doing? Wow, all right. I must say I'm very excited to have you on here, my fellow Notre Dame fan.
Go Irish.
Oh, boy.
I gotta say we hit it off day one when we found out he was a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
Aside from just the really cool personality you got, man, you're just fun to be around. But
I was going to say, I liked him for him.
But the fact that he's a Notre Dame fan was just, that was it.
That's
right
right.
there. I like it.
I'm enlightened.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress. So our first show back, I want to take care of a little bit of housekeeping here. Say hello to our sponsors. Also, one of our major listeners that listens all the time, Marissa. Happy birthday. You were having a birthday today.
Happy birthday,
I want
Marissa.
to make sure I say that.
Happy birthday, mighty son.
That's right. So before we get started on today's show, which is about healing, thank our sponsors. We have 3 different treatment facilities that we refer to both as a foundation and as a radio station. We got Retreat Behavioral Health, Journey Pure, and Gatehouse Treatment, all fantastic facilities.
Right.
We also have Orange County Drug Free Coalition. It's been supporting the Couch Live for 20 years and WPSN since our inception. Then we have Sports Subaru South. They are starting. Oh my God! It's almost here.
Yeah.
November 15th to December 31st.
Next week, right?
The Share the Love
Or
event.
10 more days.
Something like that. This is the Share the Love event, where they will be donating, in conjunction with Subaru as a whole, a total of $500 to our other sponsor, the Now Matters More Foundation, for every car purchased from their lot. So please go down and visit Sports Subaru South and get yourself a Subaru.
That's right.
And then, of course, our last one is the Now Matters More Foundation, of which I'm the president. The Dope Doctor here is the founder. We help individuals dealing with the disease of addiction. Feel free to reach out to us at 833-NOW-MATTERS. That's 833-NOW-MATTERS. Or you can go to nowmattersmore.org, see what we're about, and you can even donate. We've got some really cool events coming up, which I'm sure we'll be sharing soon. And then, as always, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DharmaTime. You can follow us on social media at WPSN99, at the Dharma Guy, at the Dope Doctor, and at Now Matters More.
That's a lot of hats.
It is a lot of ads. I feel very added out right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, so today we're talking about healing today. Healing's a very broad topic, and I chose it on purpose.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of stuff happening on my Facebook feed lately that I think it was called for. Matter of fact, after we made the decision, once we found out the Great Dunn was going to be in town, we went.
Is that his nickname, the Great Dunn?
I call it the Great Dunn.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Once we found out he was in town, I knew we had to have him on. And actually, I don't know if you knew or not, but when you were joking, when you put on my dad post, about being on the show, I don't know if you knew you were going to actually be on the show.
No, I
but
did not.
Here you are. And my dad did look like Manson, by the way.
Yeah.
And that was my legit dad, by the way, too.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody knew that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so today's about loss, and I think there's 3 main kind of topics we need to cover today, and I don't really care which order.
Right.
But the 3 things that come to my mind when we talk about loss, or excuse me, healing, is loss, trauma, and heartbreak. I think those are the 3 main ones that people kind of get confused with, or get stuck with, I guess, on how to deal with it. And I don't know how to easily transition to this, so I'm just going to do it clumsy. Dunn, we're having you on today because our listeners don't know, but you experienced some loss lately, quite a bit actually in the last couple of years. So if you don't mind, can you share just a little bit about what we're talking about today, I guess, and how it impacts you?
Very, very much so. First of all, super glad to be here, especially with the Now Matters More Foundation, who personally, with me, Now Matters More has helped people access treatment that wouldn't have access treatment. You know, and so it's a really big deal, and that's why I'm a big supporter of it.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if having loss earns your seat, then I've earned my seat.
Yeah.
Yes, you have.
It seems to be, and it's interesting. I've been in recovery for a long time. worked as a therapist for a long time and helped a lot of people
Right.
accept and get through loss. But when it happens to you, it's it's a whole different
It's a
story.
lot harder, right?
Yeah. So probably last June, end of June, beginning of July, I lost my dad, best friend, Notre Dame fan.
Oh, right on.
And it was sudden, and it was hard, And I think that recovery, I've been in long-term recovery, and my sponsor told me, he said, all the meetings you've been going to for 15 years gives you what you need when something like this happens.
Right.
And he gave it to me, and I was filled with a type of like intuition where I just did the right thing, And this is from somebody that used to run and use.
Right.
Those are my two good coping skills. Run and use.
Sure.
So to be able to stay and to be able to step up was huge.
I bet.
And it was great. And I think that the things you're talking about with heartbreak and loss, I think grief,
Right.
how we deal with that stuff or don't deal with that stuff,
Yeah.
is a big deal. And here recently on September 6th, I lost my wife suddenly, really hard, mother, and it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. And it's really, for me, it's a journey of learning more.
Interesting.
Of learning more, and I've kind of immersed myself in a lot of reading, a lot of support. Again, when I was faced with the situation, the intuition of being able to do the right thing,
Right.
kind of came up. So, the first couple weeks when something like this happens, everybody's there,
Sure.
people come in town, there's a lot of support, you stay active, but eventually people leave.
Yeah.
And they go back to their life.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets
quiet.
really, 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 really hard.
It's lonely, I bet.
That's real lonely, And so, I've been lucky to know enough and have just a lot of support.
Right.
I mean, you guys, really good support members of mine, and, a lot of people in the field that know enough to call me and say, I don't know. Like, I just want you to know that I'm there. I don't know what's good. I don't know what's going to help you. I
Right.
just know that I'm available to help if you need me. And that's really what you need when you go
Sure.
through something like this. You just need to know that you're supported. You don't necessarily need people to come down and tell you what to do. You don't need them
Right.
to tell you what not to do. You don't need them to make a metaphor to their cat that died. I know what you're going through. Probably not good.
Sure.
What you need them to do, you need to know that you're supported.
Mm-hmm.
And, without a question of a doubt, that's what recovery has given me.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, actually, when both your father and your wife passed, I think that was kind of my message that I sent to you. It was
Right.
just like, I don't have any right words, man, but
Right.
I just want you to know, if you need something, man, reach out. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't know, because I assumed that you had your immediate family and
Right.
other people, in your location, because we don't live, in the same city. But I myself never really experienced loss. I don't think we've ever really talked about any of this. Have you ever really lost anybody that close to you?
Not that close. Well, grandparents, like,
Right.
but those are expected. With a
Right.
bad way to say it, but those are more expected. But no.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that makes it any better or not. I think that myself, I've never really lost anybody like that, or I've lost grandparents and whatnot, but I was never that close to them.
Right.
So I've never had to lose anybody that was what I would consider to be a very close person to me.
Yeah.
Like you said, your dad.
Right.
And as you saw, I posted one of my. I haven't seen my dad since I was like 5. Like,
So
he's-
last
Yeah, you lost him at 5.
Yeah.
last year I remember you posting the Father's Day post with your arm
yeah.
and nobody next to me, but that's loss. I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking
Right.
about
Yeah.
a long-term
Yeah.
lifetime of
Yeah.
somebody,
Right.
absent in your life.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
tough.
and thankfully I was young enough to where I would say I dealt with it skillfully, but I didn't.
Right.
But as an adult, looking back on it, my heart always goes out to people who do have somebody that close to them. Like,
Dana.
I'm gonna be honest with you, it really hit me. Like, yes, it really hit me though. I had to take a look at myself, even man, when your wife passed. It was, I literally talked either with you or around you previously to that, like, I don't know, a couple weeks, and everything was fine.
Yep.
And the next thing I know, I saw a post. I was like, "Holy, what?"
Oh, it was
the
shocking.
hell?
It was
Yeah,
shocking.
I was like, "What?" what the hell happened?
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who has a wife and even kids at home, like it makes me stop and think, holy shit,
Yeah.
like what would I do? You know, and you know, and so that's why I'm glad we're talking about today. And I would like, you know, for you to maybe give some insight as to what your process was, if you don't mind, because I did see, I think between last night and this morning, at least 6 or 7 different people on my timeline posting that they lost. I think one was a mother, one of them was a father. People, and they don't know what to do. They literally just feel lost. I think.
Well, you brought up Marissa.
Yeah.
A little bit ago. It's her birthday today.
Yes, it is.
And here we're talking about loss, and one of the biggest losses. She's had a lot of loss since we've known her.
Yes.
Brother, you know, uncle, you know, things like that are close to her.
Yeah.
And then you know, my wife, she lost her dad when I first got with Dana, and you know, he was 50, my age right now.
Yeah.
And then she lost her sister, you know, 6 years back now, young. So we've been around a lot of people that have lost, but you and I, for some reason, have escaped some of this tragedy. And so when we see a friend like you, Patrick, you know, and you put it was like shocking because we know how young you are and how young she is.
Yeah.
It is difficult.
She was a little younger than me. I'm a little older than I look.
You must be.
But no, but like the thing.
How old are you?
42.
Oh wow.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I think that's what
I'm expecting to hear him closer to my age.
Yeah,
No,
man.
you didn't even get close.
Whoa.
But I guess that's the thing. I mean, that's the first thought I guess I have.
Yeah.
I was on my way here, and I was talking about the topic with my mother. Actually, we were conversing about it.
Right.
And because she's got some friends at the moment, she's at
She
that
has friends at the moment?
yeah,
That's good.
She's at that
That's
age
good.
group where a lot of her friends are dealing with life-threatening things. You know, like she's in her mid 60s, I guess, almost 70, and so a lot of her friends are kind of dealing with certain diagnoses and things of that nature.
Right.
And I guess that is the age-old debate, right? Does it make it easier if you see it coming?
I think it's different. I think that like I have a friend now who has a sister in hospice.
Okay.
You know, it's loss is hard, death is hard. Having that transition and that time to kind of know what's happening and having to be able to talk to kids and be able to explain stuff and answer questions is useful.
I would bet.
You know, so I don't know if it's better, but it's definitely different than not having any time at all. You know, so I don't really know, but what I do know is I think that trauma in general, you know, no matter what kind of trauma it is, it causes you to kind of reevaluate your priorities in life. And for me, it was important to take a step back and say, who am I? You know, I'm a professional. You know, I'm a therapist. I'm in long-term recovery. You know, I'm a father. You know, and so that's what's important to me. And then when you kind of re-engage, you say, all right, you know, it's sad that it is. It's mommy's gone. You know, life goes on. I mean, we had a cheerleading competition this weekend. You know, and it was great. You know, we're still going to church. You know, I spoke last weekend in Nashville because somebody in AA asked me to, and my commitment to AA is to never say no. You know, so I think that you know, it's as bad and as heartbreaking that trauma is. It doesn't have to change, you know, who you are. It changes your life.
Right.
Changes some of your decisions, but it doesn't have to change, you know, who you are. And it also sometimes is an opportunity for people to figure out, you know, who they are. You know, how do I want to respond to this?
Right.
You know, and you know, for me, I just have the kind of support that I was able to, you know, well, in this short amount of time, show up.
Now, do you think the coping skills, because you used that buzzword earlier, which I love, would you say that the coping skills or the strategy is the same with loss and trauma?
I think that the hard part about trauma is, I mean, loss is an event. It happens, boom. You know, even though it might be hard to accept, it's you know, you can compartmentalize it as an event. This happened. The hard thing about trauma is trauma can be long term.
Sure.
Trauma can revisit. You can push it down and it comes back. You know, and it changes. You know, it changes you. You know, as does loss. So I think that it's different.
Right.
Well, different.
Louis, what are your thoughts, man?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I'm thinking about right away is just exactly what you just hit on. That it is traumatic. It's for us to know how we're going to respond to that trauma, because it's not always immediate. It's like a car accident.
Yeah.
It's like, you get in a car accident, you don't necessarily always feel all the aches and pains right away.
Yeah.
But some of it is probably going to be felt in the next weeks to months to come.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, this is still fresh for you, Patrick. I mean, this just happened not too long ago.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's easy to get distracted from some of that stuff because of all the noise that happens right after a loss.
Sure.
And then it gets real quiet. But then as soon as it gets quiet, what do? We go make it noisy again because that quiet is hard. But also when you're in your situation, which is you're a breadwinner, and when you're a breadwinner, you got to go still make bread.
Show still has to go on.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so you have to keep working. So it allows you some of that noise to kind of deflect a little bit of the trauma that you're probably experiencing. Here's my concern for myself, for you, for people like us that we also travel, we also are there so much for other people, is that we tend not to be as great for ourselves as we are for other people.
Oh yeah.
We tend to be real good support systems for others, but then when it's ourselves, we don't tend to ask as much as maybe we could or should,
or even accept.
But a large part because our friends are also within our business.
Right.
Those of us that have this type of lifestyle, our friends and business are so interrelated. No. You're afraid to kind of upset that balance. And I don't know if that's your situation, but I know that's mine. And so if I was in your situation, I would have to work harder at saying, "Hey man, can I I just need to vent real quick. I need to be able to ask for that." And I hope I'm able to ask for that because it's not something that I'm used to doing.
Right.
I'm used to just distracting myself with noise, which is a lot of people, right? And these hotel rooms, like you were in a hotel room last night. You came into town, you're in a hotel room last night. Every time I'm in a hotel room, the reason I can't sleep is because it's too quiet.
Yeah.
Right.
My wife's not there. I don't like it, and I like some peace, but I like it for short periods of time. And then it's like, okay, I'm done. That's it. Right. Now let's get back to some noise.
Well, before we get to the trauma part, for the lost one, I think my concern for myself and what I see a lot of others do, the thing I would be worried for me for loss is just ignoring it. Just not addressing it.
That's right.
Just saying, like you said, it's an event, it happened, compartmentalize it, and moving on with my day.
Right.
And why that sounds like such a great thing for some people, it's really not, because it's going to hit you at some point, and it's most likely going to hit at the worst time.
Right.
And so I think that would be the thing that I would worry about for myself, because I'm going to have loss. I mean, if things go according to plan, it's going to happen. I mean, my mother is still around. She's older than me. I have animals, of course. Hopefully, I never have to, deal with my children. But at some point, my wife, who knows?
Yeah.
So statistically speaking, it's going to happen to me at some point. And so that would be my worry, is I get so caught up in helping others and just busy doing other things that I just don't address it.
Yeah, right. I think people healing groups, and I was lucky. I have a good friend that I know whose husband passed away about a year ago. Right. So, similar age, about 40, left an 8-year-old son from cancer, and so those are the people that I connect with, because they can give you some real life experience. It hurts, and what they can also do is they can help you lower the expectations of how you're supposed to act and how you're not supposed to act.
One,
right?
And if you want, and if it's 4:00 p.m. and you're having a tough day and you want to go to bed, go to bed.
Who gives a shit?
Exactly.
I mean, go to bed. So it's a real balance, and just like if I was learning how to cut hair, I'd go to a barber.
Right.
If I'm learning how to deal with a kind of a tragic loss, I want to talk to people that have been through it and have recovered or are in recovery the same way that I want to be.
Right.
Yeah, very good. I like that one.
Yeah.
And the last thing before we move to the trauma.
So in other words, we can't help them.
No, yeah. We can help with trauma, but thank you. That's the next one.
But thank you.
But before we get to the trauma part, the last thing for the loss, I guess the other thing that I know I would have in my mind,
right,
and then I think a lot of other people have as well. And once again, I know there's some people who are watching currently who are going through it. And you kind of touched on it earlier, but I'd like you to expand just a little bit. The kids.
Yeah.
Like, how do you address that with kids? And I understand different age groups obviously will have different responses, but I know for me that would be one of the hardest things. Is it's hard enough for me to deal with on my own and kind of come to terms with it. But how do I explain that to my kids that mom's not coming home anymore?
Yeah.
Or grandpa.
I think
or
that
whatever.
definitely age appropriate.
Yeah.
But so we have 7-year-old girls, twins, and I made a commitment to them to be 100% honest and totally transparent of the whole process.
Right on.
Because there's a lot of stuff changing. And I told them I'd be totally honest with them about what's happening and what happened. And I think the most important thing is when you're in that role is, so everybody grieves differently. Some people don't grieve at all. My job is to just set up an atmosphere where it's okay for them to grieve. So if they want to put on mommy's shirt, if they want to, smell mommy's perfume,
right.
They can. If they want to.
Wow, that was weird timing.
It is weird
timing. Your phone rings at the oddest time sometimes.
You would think people know I'm on air, but go ahead.
And then,
by the way, she must have had a sense of humor.
That's right.
She just did that to his phone.
Yeah.
So it's just how do I create an atmosphere that it makes it okay to? So like this weekend, I got a bunch of balloons. We went to the cemetery. We wrote messages on the balloons and let them go. Because at 7, to be able to write something on a balloon and let it go, that heaven's up there. Mommy's in heaven. And if I write something on a balloon and it goes up, it can go up to her.
Very cool.
And not even to saying for me, it was just, and my mom and her mom was there. I mean, even as an adult,
that sounds like a big moment.
It's that experiential process. But it's just like, I don't need to like put a bunch of work and try to make them understand. I just need to be honest in a way that's appropriate for their age level. So
right on.
Using faith sounds like an important tool to be able to have. If you don't have it, you can't use it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've used it.
Well, so
because you said you guys continue to go to church and stuff like that.
Yeah, we are. We're pretty Catholic. It's just the way it's. It's just the way it's always been, and it's important to us. And it's a faith-based community.
Right.
And it's when our parish has embraced us and helped us just like we would embrace another family going through loss, and and that's been useful. For me, Joe and Charlie explained belief and faith better than anybody. So Joe's using the the story. He says, I move into town and Trinity's here and my car broke down and I need a mechanic. So I say, hey, Trinity, where's a mechanic I can take my car to? And Trinity says, there's a guy up the street, Bill's body shop. He does a great job. I took my car there. I believe in him. So Trinity has faith in the mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a belief because I know that he has faith.
Right.
So just based on the belief, the idea that it might be possible, I take my car to this guy. This guy fixes my car, gives it back to me. I'm happy for the price. Now I have faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, faith is a process, which I would have never had without, kind of recovery. So now that I have faith, when I go through something like that, even though I'm confused, very often devastated, I don't have questions.
Right.
Because, I know for me in my personal faith journey that my plan and God's plan sometimes line up, and then sometimes they don't. But his plan is what happens. And so my job is to work on my acceptance of that plan. It's not to change the plan. It's not to fight the plan. It's not to sit afterwards stuff that doesn't happen and question, why it happened or that's not fair that it happened. My job is just to accept that's what happened and keep trudging forward.
Right.
Very well put, man. I like the belief of faith one. That's nice.
Yeah, it was a good way to put it.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one, the topic that I think bears, and I think a lot more people can relate to this one potentially. I know we both having this trauma, dealing and kind of healing from trauma. I saw an article posted this morning from somebody who I think is probably watching at the moment, and the title of the article was essentially, the trauma that happened to you wasn't your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal. And I thought that was very interesting. And I agree with that actually. Because we've all experienced trauma of some sort. Mine, obviously, I put out in the open with the father thing. And I think that for me anyways, spirituality played such an integral part in my healing. And I don't mean the superficial healing, like legitimate healing. I was telling people I was healed for many, many years.
Right.
And I thought that I was, to be honest with you. But I was still harboring things. I was still dealing with things from the trauma that I experienced early on that I never really I never confronted on a deeper level. And it was spirituality that enabled me to do that. Spirituality for some, religion for others, philosophy, whatever you want to label it. For me, I think that is paramount. I really do. When it comes to coping, whether it be from loss or heartbreak or even trauma, I think spirituality and good coping skills is kind of where it all kind of boils down to. I think if you have them, then it's essentially it's like a well-trained army. You know, when something happens, boom, call them, we take care of it. To where otherwise, if you don't have that, then you got to start trying to find the tools as opposed to already having them, you know, well equipped. But I think that a lot of times with trauma as well, I think we underestimate how much that trauma impacts not only us, but those around us. Yeah. And that's why I like the fact that the article said it was our responsibility. Yeah. Because the trauma that I went through, you know, it's not your responsibility to deal with it. Right. It's not your responsibility to deal with the after effects of it. It's mine. Yeah. And so if I'm punishing you for trauma that I went through, now I'm the perpetrator.
That's right.
And not only am I the perpetrator, but I'm also been hurt twice because I allowed that same trauma to hurt me earlier, and now it's continuing to hurt me. Yeah. And so I think that's what a lot of people overlook when it comes to healing.
Well, the trauma's in control then.
Exactly.
That's right.
The trauma can't drive the bus.
No.
You know, don't give the wheel over. You know what I'm thinking about on that, before you address this, Patrick, is, you know, what I didn't want is someone to feel sorry for me.
That's right.
You know, because unfortunately, the way I dealt with the trauma I dealt with is I manipulated certain circumstances, manipulated myself, manipulated my environment, and that's how I kind of got what I wanted out of life, kind of thing in those early years, right? So if you feel sorry for me, the addict inside of me, because I'm in recovery as well, will probably manipulate that. So the last thing that I need is anyone feeling sorry for me. And that's why I think when you said when you find people that have experienced the same thing,
that's right.
What helps is they don't feel sorry for you.
No.
They feel bad about the situation. They know the pain you're going through, so they focus it differently. People that try to talk to you when you experience serious pain like this, they can't help but feel sorry for you. You know what I mean? Because they do. You know, it's like, oh my God, I'm sorry that you're going through that. And unfortunately, yes, thank you. I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, you know, that I don't know how I'm going to process through that. But because I'm in recovery and I've already dealt with other things, you talk about instincts, it's instinctually working your program. Yeah. You know what I mean? You instinctually start going through some of the steps and some of the motions that are healing for you, and how to process it and how to let it go, how to know it's not your fault, how to know, okay, this is, what am I feeling about it? What am I experiencing? Okay, now what I'm going to do with that? Let it play out. Don't try to hide it. Don't be upset that you're having these emotions or thoughts. If you're angry that day, you know, express it. But you do know how to pick up that phone. You do know how to have conversations. You do know how to do that stuff. And I think that's what the recovery kind of helps you do, right?
No, there's no question. I think it gives you permission to feel, you know, and it takes away the expectations. You know, empathy and sympathy. Empathy is when I feel what you're feeling. Sympathy is when I feel for you. You know, I like empathy. You know, because I mean, it feels like more of a connection. Yeah. You know, sympathy can sometimes be about, you know, the other person.
Yeah, they make it about themselves instead of the situation.
And you know, and it's what's interesting going through something like this, how awkward it is for people that I've known a long time will, you know, see me and they'll just be like, ugh, just like frozen. It's like, I don't want to say something good. I don't want to say something bad.
Well, I think you're afraid because you don't know where the person's at in the grieving process.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be responsible for.
And I don't know
breakdown.
I definitely don't know where I'm at. And I think when you talk about the stages of grief, the best thing I've read recently was, you know, the stages of grief are not fluid.
No.
You know, you can jump back and forth and hit some and not hitting the other. I think what I know that I've done a good job at is I've meditated more in the last 2 months. Meditated better than I ever have.
Right.
You know, because I'll give myself 2 hours at the sunset. You know, I'll go out to the dock, watch the whole sunset, and stay out there until the stars come out. You know, I'll give myself, you know, more time and more position. And I've felt the effects of meditation more than I ever have.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because I've given myself permission to commit to a longer process. You know, and it's been huge. You know, it's been huge, and without expectation, because I know for me, meditation-wise, I'm not the guy that can just sit and meditate. I've got to dress it up.
I do walking meditation.
I've got to walk. I've got to listen to music. I've got to be in water. I just need more kind of stimuli for me to kind of get in the groove, and that's okay. Yeah, walking meditations.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Beautiful.
I can't just
fantastic.
Sit either. Yeah, I think for me, I think there's a once again, it's hard for me to comment too much on the loss aspect, but the way I would see for myself, even, or just looking from the outside looking in, I think the grieving process, or the coping or the healing process, for me, I think would be different when it comes to loss. I would assume, anyways, looking at it, because I have had some loss. I mean, nothing to the extent of a wife or a parent, but I agree with you. I look at it as an event. I look at it as just this happened, and then I look at it more of I try to remember how, like, it's trivial an example, but I had a dog one time, right? It was my first dog I ever bought as a puppy. Had him my whole life. Thought this dog was amazing. Had him tattooed on my stomach. But one day I went out and found he was dead in the backyard. And so I found him. I just went into like dad mode essentially.
Right.
I took care of it. I did what I had to do. But I never like cried over it. I never like got upset over it, because for me, first of all, I knew it was going to happen. I mean, he's a dog. I'm going to outlive him at some point. But more importantly, I choose to remember the good times. I don't choose to remember finding him out there. I choose to remember, hey, I got like however many years with him. Like, it was awesome. It was a great addition to my life for those years, and I'm thankful for those. I'm not sad that it ended. I'm happy that it happened in the first place. Yeah. To whereas the way I approached trauma was a little bit harder, in the sense, for me anyways, that I had to understand how it impacted me. There's a lot of questions I had with trauma. Was why did this happen to me? Why did this person do this to me? Why was I victimized like this? And those questions, I find that you might not always get the answers to. And so I think part of the healing is being okay with not having those answers. That's right. And that's a hard thing for some.
And I mean, this is not something that you can do alone. Like, I've got an attentive, kind of scheduled for a week in January. Right. I'm meeting with a therapist. I'm going to go back to a place that I go to and do a Taoist meditation retreat in Sedona. You can't see, and when you're in it, you can't really see it. Right. and you need, you deserve people to help you kind of point it out. Point stuff like that out, and because it's true. I mean, you deserve to heal, but to heal, you have to have a different perspective. And I got in the car with Louis a couple weeks ago and shared some stuff, and he just put on the brakes. He's like, hey man, I really feel like you're making decisions based on of emotion. Let's talk about it rationally. And he was able to reframe some stuff for me that was a major life decision. Right. That really helped. But without that perspective, I would have been making decisions based on loss and grief.
Right on.
And unfortunately, I mean, that seems common.
Very common.
Because after a loss like that, which is different than like, I lost Tony, my little dog, not too long ago. I didn't have to make any life decisions because of it, other than do you buy another dog or not. Yeah. But when you lose a child, you lose a spouse, you lose maybe somebody that's within your household. Big decisions come after that.
Big decisions.
Yeah. And so I think that's something that's kind of important to tell everybody is like, be very weary about those large decisions. People move.
Oh yeah,
because of that. I mean, like move, like states or cities, or
where they sell everything.
Sell it, and I get it. But hopefully, you can have somebody that you can talk to about it to kind of like process through it. But don't expect, and I think sometimes you expect that someone's going to have some magical words. And you guys said it like twice already, and I think that's a real important thing to keep. Nobody's going to have these magical words for you. No. And I think that's bothersome.
It doesn't exist.
I think that's bothersome not only to the person, but it's also it's what makes it difficult for people to talk to you. So they don't call you. Right. They want to call you, but they don't call you because they don't know what to say to you. Yeah. They want to spend time with you, but they really don't know what to say. You know what I mean?
That's with trauma too.
But that's what I'm saying.
With trauma and loss, you're not going to get the right answers or the right words.
So I think this show is not only for the people that actually have lost or have trauma, but a lot for the support system. Just like with addicts in recovery. I get questions from friends all the time, especially at universities when I speak at a university. How do you help a friend?
That's right.
It's more people asking that question than, hey, how do I get help?
And there's a lot of things that you can do besides have the right words. Yeah. Like, I wanted people to spend time with me. Yeah. And so my mom came down, and my mom's been a counselor her whole life. She's as smart as they come. She's fantastic. But I asked her just to be with me and not talk so much. Yeah. So we went out to the sunset, and she's a trooper. She sat with me for 2 hours and just sat. And afterwards, she's like, wow, because, she lost her husband, a year ago. And she was like, wow. How amazing is that? Is just to sit and to observe the beauty of the sunset.
Well, that's being present, man. That's what
that's right. That's being present, and so but so for me, it's been helpful to be clear. So when everybody says, "Hey man, what can you do?" Hey man, bring me over something to eat.
Right.
I mean, help me do this. I had my good friend lost his mom, and her husband said, "Listen, whatever somebody offers, accept it. Accept it, especially in the first couple months.
Nice.
Just accept it." And that was useful because as a man, it's easy to say, "Don't need it. I'm not
good.
hurt.
Suck
I
it
got
up.
this. I'm ready to do this." And you act like nothing's wrong, and then you go home and eat junk food and cry. So
well, I think you bring up an interesting point because I was watching a show not too long ago, and it was in reference to a girl that went to a party, got intoxicated, and then got sexually assaulted afterwards. Woke up, didn't really remember what happened, and was traumatized by it, obviously. But one of the things that she did mention, though, was what made it worse was that's all anybody wanted to talk about afterwards.
That's right.
Like every time she would go to a friend's house or whatever, that was the topic of like she couldn't just like let it go.
That's right.
Because everybody around her just kept talking about it and asking questions and was feeling. She was like, "Dude, like, yeah, it hurt, it sucks, but I'm trying to get over it."
Well, it's because everybody's thinking it. See, but it's no different for us, Trinity. Those of us in recovery, it's no different than recovery. You get clean and sober, everybody when they see you, they're thinking it.
Yeah.
How you doing? How you feeling? You okay? Are you okay? It means something different.
Right.
Either when you get sober or you've had loss or have had trauma and everybody knows about it. Because they're looking at you and they're wondering, and so sometimes you feel like saying, "Look, it's okay."
Right.
It's okay. And you know how Patrick is the same as me. It's like, look, if you drink, it's okay. Order one.
Right.
It's almost like you want to be able to have that. You could talk about death without worrying that I'm going to get all fragile on you for a second.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's like, can we get back to normal with some of that stuff? Because it's very possible that not all my relationships are the therapeutic kind. Some are just what they are. And then I have that friend over there that I'll call to get deep. With you, let's just talk smack. It's okay.
Yeah, let's laugh.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let's laugh.
Laughter is very healing.
It's healing.
And you can, feeling emotions not polarized.
That's right.
I can be sad, but I can also laugh.
In the same 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then maybe later that day I might feel just a little bit of hope.
Right.
And I think that's that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm a matter of fact, it was funny because the conversation that preceded my posting of the jail dad pic, I was talking to my wife and she was talking about her dad, and then and I won't put her stuff out there, but it caused her to then start asking me more questions about my dad. And her and I talked about it in the past, but for whatever reason she just had more questions at this point. And one of the things she kept asking me was if I needed, like, she asked me if I saw him today, would I, go out of my way to talk to him, or would I try to avoid him? And I said I wouldn't do either. I said there was a point in my life for the first probably 20 years where I had so much anger and rage that I would have hurt him. I would have actively sought him out to physically harm him. But where I'm at now, like I told her, I said I got closure on it. So I'm good. Like I don't care. Like it is what it is. To me, it's just a fact of my life. That's it. And so for her, but the question she asked me, which I thought was interesting, was she couldn't understand how I got closure, but I've never spoken to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't need him for closure.
Right.
Closure's on me. That's on my ability to come to terms with everything that took place, and accept it and forgive it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example. I know in the 12-step process, making amends to other people, it's not about them.
Yeah.
Like I'm making amends so I can let it go, so I can move on with my life. So just because something happened to me, you can't change what happened.
Nope.
It always happened. But how is it going to affect me day to day? Is it going to affect the way I treat other people? Is it going to change, when you're out there dating, is it going to change my picker? Am I going to stay in fear? And and that's what's so freeing about the amends process. If I go make amends to somebody, it doesn't matter if they say, "Hey man, fantastic," or "Hey, kick rocks," because my process is doing my part, and then working on letting it go.
Well, that's where I liked the article that I was seeing earlier about it's our responsibility.
Right.
Like, it's kind of a punch to the gut, I think, for somebody who's fresh into something to hear that. But long term, it kind of really is. I think of the person I was while I was still holding on to a lot of my issues from the trauma that I had. And I think of other people who've gone through loss and who just completely just shut everything off and completely change who they are. And even with heartbreak, something happens and you're heartbroken and it kind of changes your view moving forward. I wasn't a good person. You know what I mean? Like, I was a good person deep down, but superficially and face value, I was an asshole, man. Like, I was mean to people. I was violent. I had a lot of rage issues.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything to do with them. It was all because I didn't heal from everything.
That's right.
And so I think that's where the responsibility thing does come into play, is because, my lack of healing early on hurt other people. Like, I hurt a lot of people early on in my life because I just didn't heal. Yeah. And that wasn't their fault.
Right.
And so I think that's where it is our responsibility. And even, in your case, you have little kids still.
That's right.
They look to you for guidance.
And, it's, there's a good book, Everything I've Ever Need to Learn, I've learned in kindergarten. That's right. So, and when you have young kids, what we say is, it's okay to be, recently, even before this, Pia died, we said, kindness. Nothing's more important. Is kindness, how you treat people, how do you be kind and not to react. And then even now, after losing by far the most important part in their life, and say we can be sad, we can even be mad sometimes, but we're always kind. We're always kind, and how important that is to be kind. And then when you tell somebody that, I think when you're teaching kids that, I'm thinking to my same self, man, it's pretty important that I be kind.
Yeah.
Well, more than anything
it's important to be kind to yourself too.
Kind to yourself. That's right.
I think and that's where allowing time and adjusting your expectations comes into play. That's how we're kind to ourselves.
I think there's a part that I think we have to touch on this, and that's especially when you lose a partner in even a parent really or a child, is touch.
Yes.
There's so many other parts to you besides just the psychology.
That's right.
The sense of touch. I'm a very tactile person.
Yes.
So to not be able to touch and be touched is going to affect me. And that's what makes certain losses different than others. Right? There's certain people you may have lost them, they may have meant a lot to you, but it didn't have that added component. Right. Whereas you losing Pia, there's a sense of touch there.
There's intimacy there
there's intimacy. There's closeness. There's potential guilt of, if I want to be with someone else, if I want to spend time with someone else, when's the right time? The judgment of other people. I've seen other people judge people poorly, but saying, "Oh wait, why is he with that girl already?" Right. He shouldn't have been with that girl. I mean, she's not even in the ground yet. Like bad comments. Yeah. That I've seen people judge upon others. So can you speak a little bit about that, because you're experiencing that? Yeah. And there's people out there that are experiencing that.
So early, but when your spouse, your life partner goes, touch is such an important thing. Right. And it's not even touch, it's just I'm going to say connection. Daily connection, all day long. You text and you call somebody all day long. So it's the loss of a partner. And that's really, really hard, and touch is important.
Very.
Really glad, to have the girls, a lot of holding hands. We hold hands a lot anyway because of parking lots and stuff like that, and then being so young. But it's just a lot of that. But how important, how important that is. So the physical, and that's why it's been important to me to do a lot of sensory stuff. So I've been doing lots of swimming. When I say swimming, I mean floating on a noodle. I don't mean Olympic swimming, but it's it's important to me, massage and stuff like that, because sensory stuff's a big deal. Sensory stuff is a really big deal. And that's the kind of stuff, if you go, when you talk to a therapist, they can give you, because nobody knows what would going to work, so you really just want to do your best to have some people that give you some decent things to try, and it's really helped. One thing that's been really hard that I didn't ever expect is just the physical, how tired you are, just all the time. Like I'll get, I used to go to the gym every day at 5:30, and it's just, you're so tired, and you go to the gym, you'll do like one set, and you'll just be exhausted, and because when you talk to people that haven't been through it, they'll be like, man, just go work out, it'll give you energy. Go for a run, it'll give you energy. But when you talk to somebody that's been through it, they'd be like, oh, I hear you. There's days you just stay in bed, so the expectations, really, I can never say that. It's the expectations that I put on myself, right? Based on what I think, I should do. And that's like you're saying, how long before you, spend time with somebody, how long before you do this, and nobody knows, nobody.
Yeah, there's no right answer.
There's none.
Nobody knows. Grief is
well. There's probably a wrong answer. You don't bring one to the funeral. That's wrong.
Right.
But there is no right, like you said, and unfortunately, it is one of those things that's hard to talk about with those people.
That's right.
The people like yourself that experience it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah.
Because I know we can.
Yeah.
You know, and I know there's people out there experiencing that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the relationship is hidden before they, you know, in the world of social media, you know, we expose a lot about ourselves, right?
That's right.
So, you know, when is the proper time and all that stuff? It's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the good thing about having kids is Lila and Faye. Lila said about a month ago, she said, I need you to commit right now to never be with another woman. I was like, wow, that was strong, you know, and I thought that maybe she just needed to say it, and then she moved on.
Right.
No, she waited for an answer. She waited for an answer. And it makes sense that a kid would say that.
Sure.
You know, I mean, that's a process that's important to you. You know, and I think that, you know, maybe a year or two down the road that, you know, a kid will get it. You know,
well, at that age, they still think replacement rather than addition to.
That's right.
It's an addition to your life, not a replacement to your life.
That's right.
I mean, that when you get it, you know, like, you know, for those of you that unfortunately, there's a lot of people. Like, I like that you said the cat thing earlier because so many people always use their animals as an example. So just like when you get a new animal, you're not replacing the last animal with a new one.
That's right.
You're just adding a new animal to your life.
That's right.
That other one, you still had those memories. You still had all the good feelings.
100%.
It doesn't diminish that at all.
Yeah.
But now you have a new one.
And I don't want to diminish anybody that's lost a cat. Listen. If you lost a cat and you're devastated,
well, they'll let us know if they're upset because, you know.
Well, speaking of that, Jeannie Griffin says hi, by the way. She's watching.
Jeannie. So let me tell you something about Jeannie. So Jeannie is a shaman. You know? She's an unbelievable therapist. She's probably one of the best therapists I've ever been in contact with. I'm so happy to know her.
Right on.
It'll be hard not to get emotional. So she said, "Can I send the girls something?" You know, because she gets it. You know, I was like, "Yeah." So she sent them, you know, a special locket. You know, that had a card that said, "This is so special. I want to keep this to your heart." I mean, that's the kind of support, you know, that you need, you know, when you go through something like this, because she understands, you know. And then she even shared in the card, I lost my mom when I was young. So right there, she's letting the girls know, hey, I get it. I was there. And anytime you want to call me, and anytime you want to FaceTime me, you know, I'll be there. You know, that's the kind of, you know, connection that, I mean, the relationships that I made in recovery.
Yeah.
You know, people that get it. And I've had people send, you know, lockets and stuff like that. People frame pictures. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that people kind of deserve. Not even so much to heal, but just kind of to stabilize.
Sure.
You know, because I'll tell you one thing. Kids deal with this much better than the adults do.
Yeah.
Much better.
They're
Because
much more resilient than we are.
A 7-year-old will go from devastated to crying to ask when mommy's coming back from heaven to, hey, can I get a Rice Krispie treat and go swim? You know, and you're just like, whoa, yeah, let's go swim.
Right
you know, it's just how they process. But they're such good examples of being able to feel pain and sorrow, but still, on the other hand, still wanting to be a kid.
Yeah.
You know, it's been amazing to watch them through the process. You know? Hey, Jeannie.
Yeah, I think you said something earlier that I want to touch on that I guess is a tool in the toolbox for people, and I don't want it to gloss over, and that is, you said people heal in groups. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's probably one of the most important things I think somebody could take away from today. No matter what it is that you're healing from, whether it be a loss, you know, we hear about the groups that are out there for that, even trauma. Like, I know one of the fastest ways I build rapport, if I'm talking to a group, is to open up about my own trauma.
That's right.
And then they hear about that, and there's immediate kinship that takes place immediately. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about or anything else. The second they feel or they hear any trauma, it's like a bonding type situation. You instantly have their respect and vice versa. And I would assume the same for heartbreak as well. So I think if there was one thing, obviously we're going to do our tips here in a little bit, but I definitely think that you touched on probably the point of the day.
Yeah.
Groups, man. Like, reach out. There are people out there, because I think it is easy to start to feel like you're the only one.
That's right.
Like, if you had lost, I would assume that you start to feel like I'm the only one. This happened to me. Why? And with trauma, You start to think that you're the only one that experienced it. It only happened to you. It didn't happen to anybody else. And if it didn't happen to you, there's no way you can know what I'm going through, that kind of stuff.
That's right.
And heartbreak is probably similar. I would assume heartbreak comes in many different forms, but the one that I thought of when I wrote it was, ending of a marriage or something like that, because I know some people are going through divorces at the moment. And so a lot of people feel like, if you haven't been through divorce, you don't know what I'm doing, and things of that nature. Groups, man. I think you hit it right on the head, man.
I think that I love the Animal Planet, and you always watch in herds, and you see the herds of elephants. They're walking, and you see the one elephant. He's trailing off, and you're like, oh no.
There's always that one.
He's gonna get it, and he does.
Yep.
The lions get him. But not if you're in the herd. And there's safety in the herd, and I guess throughout life, our herds evolve and change, but we do know. The herd and being in groups and staying close to the groups, and there's so many different groups. If you don't like one group,
find another one.
Go another one. Content prior to investigation. Find out where you feel like you fit. And if you don't know, ask somebody.
Yeah.
I know for me, I've got all kinds of recommendations for people. If somebody wanted to email or ask you guys or ask Louis, there's all kinds of stuff to feel. But when you do feel it, when you feel supported and you're like, yeah, these people get me. I mean, that feels good.
I bet, yeah.
It feels good.
Absolutely, man. Right on. Louis, you got anything else you want to add? I guess we're getting close to the tips part.
Is it getting close to
that
time?
It is, man. We only got like a couple minutes. We got 6 minutes, technically, but...
6 minutes. Well, I don't know. I guess in closing, really everybody has lost. I mean... When I think of all throughout the show, I'm here watching you guys and listening to you guys, and I think of my dead people is the way I've always called them. My dead people. Right. Friends that I've lost along the way, people that I knew real close and they passed away. And I know the way I respond to it. And the reason I say I really haven't lost someone close is because there's the major ones that I really think about, to be honest with you. I think about mom, dad, wife, children. Those are the main ones, right? But the more I think about when you guys talk, it's like, man, I've experienced a lot of loss.
Oh, yeah.
I've experienced a lot of death. Yeah. And I'm real cold about it. I got to be honest with you. I'm real cold about it. And even with my dogs, I feel it, but I don't. I don't do the cry. You know what I mean? Like you said earlier, I just don't do the cry. But I know it's going to be different with parents. But I wanted to say this then. Don't judge don't judge yourself by your reaction either. I know when my wife went through this, a lot of people were like, oh, she's really going to feel it because she's not crying.
That's
when she lost her dad. She was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so everybody was like expecting her to be broken down, and Dana wasn't broken down. Dana was right, and they were like, oh, you better be there. And I know how upset she got that everybody expected her to react a certain way. And in time, it happened. There was a time where, we've had some conversations where all of a sudden it was coming out. And it was much later, by the way, much later. And all I can think about is, wow, man, there's really no one way.
Yeah. No.
Nope.
So don't judge. I guess if anything, my idea of what the takeaway today is there's no one way.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no right way to lose and process, and there's no wrong way. Whatever your way is, you're going to go through it. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
Time is going to pass anyway. You're going to feel it. I don't think time necessarily is the healer, but time does change things, and it's what you do within that time. But one other thing I really liked about what you said was the quiet time.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for me to ever learn was meditation. And I still can't get past 2 to 3 minutes. But those 2 to 3 minutes, I feel like I can blank out. And driving, by the way, is my favorite one. It's probably not the safest, by the way, but driving. I like driving long distances.
Sure.
I'm a driver. So when I'm driving, I feel the most peace.
Sure.
And so, like you did that long drive from I can do that. I'm the 6-hour driving, 8-hour driving, and I'm at peace, and I'm good. No music, no nothing, and I can zone out. But anything is at least find that group that they're talking about, that Patrick and Trinity were talking about, whatever group that is, and you may not even have to share it, but be within the group. But eventually you're going to open up and you're going to talk about it. But find someone safe. Find a place that's safe. Find a place that you can feel comfortable. But if you need to be alone right now, it's okay to be alone as well.
That's right.
You'll come out of it. Regardless,
Yeah.
I've never known many people that stay in that shell for too long.
Yeah.
It just may not be the way you thought you were going to respond.
Right.
I never knew how I was going to respond to a bad thing until the bad thing happened, and then you just dealt with it. But anyway, man, that's all I got to say.
Right on.
That's good stuff.
Well, first, let me say, Patrick, thank you, man. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you for being so open and sharing. It's always a pleasure to be in your presence, man. Hopefully, you make it to our golf tournament this year because you missed the last one.
Well, I was busy, but I'll win it this year.
What final words does Patrick have?
You got any more final words?
Maybe just a couple. I think
let them out, man.
Louis, give yourself permission to be where you are.
Right.
Being present is just accepting you are where you are. You know, I mean, if I'm not present, I'm just fighting what's really going on, and it's it's swimming upstream. It's it's wasting energy. So just giving yourself permission to feel the way you feel, and I'm still working on that. Well, as I re-engage and get back to work and do stuff like that, giving yourself permission to feel the way you feel, and to find your group. And just because you're in one group doesn't mean you have to go other. Just because you're AA doesn't mean you need to go to NA.
Correct.
Just because you're Catholic doesn't mean that you can't meditate with Buddhists or Hindus or stuff like that. I think that this journey and I think how we identify ourselves, whether it's spiritually as a person, can be a hodgepodge of a bunch of just different stuff. And I think that our goal, I know for me, spirituality is to seek.
Right
it's
on.
not to find,
Right
it's to seek, and to seek you got to look,
right?
And I think that what I've been going through has really pushed me to seek, and I'm reading a lot of stuff, and looking at a lot of stuff and listening to a lot of podcasts. I mean, Oprah's Soul Sessions, OMG. Like,
that's awesome.
Get a box of Kleenexes.
Right.
It really has pushed me to seek.
Right.
Well,
very cool. Well, thank you for that, man. So with our last minute here, I'm going to go ahead and do our tips, I guess. So the first tip I have, we always like to define it. So what is healing? I would define healing as closure, as the ability to handle whatever the loss, the trauma, the heartbreak, to be able to handle that without it devastating you, or as he said, driving the bus. That's what I would consider healing. The second one is you need to heal. You have to. You have to, and you deserve to, because it does. It impacts you. It impacts everybody else around you. If you let it, it will take over everything, and that'll define you at that point. And you're so much more than whatever you're healing from. And then lastly, the third one is it is your responsibility. Whatever happened wasn't your fault potentially. You couldn't control it, or it's just done at this point. But moving forward, it's your responsibility to heal. Nobody else can come and do it for you. People can support you, can help you, but you have to put the work in, and you have to see the value in yourself and the value in healing. I think that's all I got today. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share it with your friends, tell people, and now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.